Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is the MTW podcast. I've been gone for a couple of weeks. I was away working. I was gone for about 6 weeks, but we are back and I'm going to have some more content for you throughout the summer. And coming to us, recording from Skype from Syracuse, New York. So this is the first time the podcast has gone somewhat expansion. We've made it all the way upstate. So, Robbie, welcome into the podcast from Syracuse.
Well, thank you, Evan. It's a delight to be in my own living room. I shaved and put on a tie. I realize now that didn't matter, but whatever.
You like to put on ties. I remember one time you used the tie to take the trash out.
Yeah, I put on a tie to take the trash. Yeah. Just
I remember that, yeah. But yeah, man. So yeah, we've been trying to get this thing doing for a couple of weeks now. We had the worst time getting the Skype thing organized, and I was sick and I was working, so it was a whole big nonsense. But Robbie, we are here to talk about Marvel, the whole regime. I'm going to give your thoughts on the new Marvel film, Avengers 2: Age of Ultron, which immediately came out a few weeks ago, but my mom always told me it's not a rerun unless you've seen it, so I figured we can have some people that will still listen to this podcast.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's still out in theaters.
It's still out in theaters. It's still making...
This is going to be a thing that we're going to talk about until at least Ant-Man comes out.
Ant-Man. Oh, I guess that'll be the next one. So, what I wanted to do here, Robbie, is just sort of give your thoughts on the Marvel movies of the past. What are your favorite ones you didn't like, and what do you see? What does the future of these films have, and what do you think Marvel needs to do in order to keep things fresh? And so we'll go into all that and more. So, Robbie, hang tight. We'll get right back to you, okay?
Okay.
This has been going on for 7 years now. These Marvel movies, or at least this Avengers sort of chronicle, I guess, series of films, like almost like this big Avengers initiative kind of puzzle. So this has been going on for years, and what I would like to do is sort of give your thoughts and reflections on each of these films, from Iron Man 1 to Avengers 2, and I guess pros and cons of each film. So I figured that'd be a good way to do it.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. First up then would be the one that started it all, and the reason personally that I love the Avengers is Iron Man. Was a solid, surprising movie. Good origin story. It suffered from having a bad villain. That's one thing that I found in general that a lot of Marvel movies seem to have a tough time nailing down, is a really good villain.
Yes, that is a good... Yeah, because it's almost like the movies seem so built on fun and kind of, crowd pleasing. It's like they don't a lot of these movies, they don't get really too violent, or at least too like dark, like psychologically violent. Like, there's explosions and stuff like that, but there's nothing that's supposed to make the audience feel uncomfortable.
Right, yeah. But, and I get that, but I mean, the movies tend to feel like the whole point of the movie is obviously the one character that's eventually going to be a big part of everything else in the Avengers, and that's fine, but the villains usually seem to fall by the wayside, and there's just a lot of really convenient, oh, okay, whatever, if they ever bring up Ironmonger, the villain from Iron Man 1, ever again, even in passing reference, I will be stunned.
Wait, that was, what was that,
The Ironmonger was Jeff Bridges'...
Oh, okay. Was it the part of that little terrorist group, like the 10 Kings or something like that? I forgot the name of it.
No, the 10 Rings.
The 10 Rings, there we go.
That was, in the comic books, that's the people who captured him.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. In the movie, it's the people who captured him.
Yeah.
In the comic books, it's the Mandarin's terrorist organization, and they bring it up in Iron Man 3, which we'll get to.
But. Okay, cool. Yeah, so Oh yeah, what I liked about Iron Man
on the
1,
whole, a very fun movie.
Yes.
And it started all this off for good reason and resurrected Robert Downey Jr.'s career, which I think most people are happy for.
I think that was the first big swerve was when they announced that Robert Downey Jr. was Iron Man. I'm like, wait, didn't that dude go to jail for like alcohol abuse and shit like that? Like you're about to put it, and it wasn't like people and like it wasn't like the Iron Man property was a thing already. Like, I mean, like it was a thing, but that was a new superhero character that you were bringing on. It wasn't like they tried to do an Iron Man film in the '90s and it bombed. Like this is the first time I can remember them actually trying to do an Iron Man movie.
Yeah, Iron Man was always he was more of the techie sidekick guy, like especially in like the comic books and the and the TV shows and stuff. It was really Captain America's show.
Yeah.
Which now, I mean, he's still the leader, but I'm glad that he's a little more balanced out. I definitely say that Robert Downey Jr. still gets more screen time than anybody else, but
Definitely.
I don't really feel like I have to complain about that. I mean, the show, the whole like tone of the entire series is to be really like lighthearted and snarky.
Yeah.
Which is exactly his shtick. So he's a good face of the Avengers.
It was good. Yeah, that was definitely a good look for that. So, going on to one of our more talked about villains here. I mean, not villains. Our more talked about Avenger is the Incredible Hulk with Ed Norton.
The one that's technically not. It is canon, but we just don't really reference it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they mentioned that he broke Harlem. Yeah, that was a joke in Avengers. So, okay, yeah. So it's still in there. It was fine.
I like this one, man. I thought it worked out pretty well. But I know you still love your Ang Lee Hulk.
Well, I don't love it, but I will defend it. I've heard a lot of bad things said about it, and it's not that bad. It's a fun little different take, except it's really depressing too. Whatever.
It was a more spiritualized version. So, but what did you think of this sort of more redone, almost like kind of second chance Incredible Hulk, the Ed Norton one? I thought it moved really well, and what I really liked about the Incredible Hulk was that they didn't spend too much time trying to give you an origin story because they already did that already, and they realized that the Hulk origin story isn't exactly the most. It's not the most enticing to the audience, so I kind of like that it just kind of went right to the meat, basically.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's already happened. It's been in the past. You know what Hulk is. Get used to, and it's fun. And there are good action set pieces in it. It's doesn't really rise above like okay though. It's pretty good.
What'd you think of and I liked at the end it was the Robert Downey Jr. cameo that really let you know that I think because Robert Downey Jr. shows up at the end, he talks to William Hurt's character, the General, and to me that was the first indication is that oh wow they're actually really gonna connect these movies and some of these are gonna come out around the same time. So you like to really it's like a puzzle piece that's really there's a lot of Easter eggs. These movies give you a lot of Easter eggs that require you to pay attention in the future.
Yeah, and apparently, I don't know if this is just a rumor or not, but I heard that the General, William Hurt's character, from The Incredible Hulk is going to be in, I think, Civil War.
Everybody's coming back for Civil War, and we'll get to that. Yeah, but that is true. He actually is coming back, which I was very surprised with because the Hulk character seems to get the least callback. You know something? Why is there's no references to like the Hulk's past or literally like it's very like okay, the Hulk, that's it. But like especially with some of these like there's constant references to Iron Man and Captain America and Thor's past. But for some reason, hell, even Hawkeye gets a lot of backstory in the second Avengers movie. But it seems like with the Hulk, his stories always kind of kept in the dark with the Hulk a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it's the thing is, they didn't establish his origin, but everyone knows it. They don't really want to call back on it in case anything's, a little different, which is fine. I mean,
plus, you've recasted it so many times, too. I think people just want to just all right, this is now the Hulk. Like, there's been so much, revampings of that franchise, too.
Yeah, we don't need to try and remember. It would be weird to have, nostalgia and bring up for a time when like they were kind of going in a different direction. Like the Incredible Hulk was a little, I don't want to say gritty, but it was a lot more emotional and like the kind of thing that you would expect.
Yeah.
From not Joss Whedon, I guess. Mm-hmm. It was a little darker in tone.
One of your favorites, Iron Man 2.
Yeah, you're saying favorites. I don't hate it. It gets a lot of flack. Honestly, I think kind of like the Incredible Hulk. It was when they were first coming up with the idea for the Avengers and putting it together.
Yeah.
They made a couple of little false starts in a different direction. Mm-hmm. Like this one, the biggest problem was the script. It was kind of all over the place.
The script, yeah, because
I'm gonna hide a molecule in a park or whatever that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird. But there was one thing that when I watched the new Dawn of Justice trailer, where they're like Batman says, "Will you bleed?" All I could think of was that scene.
That was so
Iron Man 2, where fucking Russian Mickey Rourke goes like, "If you make God bleed, you will make substandard Marvel movie."
pretty much it. That was kind of it right there. It's just like you had this great actor in Mickey Rourke playing the villain, but yeah, Iron Man 2 was again much more interested in getting more information about the Avengers Initiative than anything else, as opposed to being an Iron Man film, because what made Iron Man 2, I will consider it fun, because they kept the spirit of the first film without trying to steer in too many like really bad directions. Like they kept the funness of the first film. But the problem was, I think they tried to do too many things with having an actual standalone villain in Whiplash, and then trying to do all this Avengers setup too. So I think Iron Man 2's and the and then the changing of casting of Rhodey. I'm thinking of Homeland, of Rhodey from Terrence Howard to Don Cheadle. I know the movie did its best to try and play that off, but I actually really liked Terrence Howard as Rhodey, and then I understand there were some personal issues backstage. There were some personal issues behind the scenes. You know, Terrence Howard, I guess he didn't make a lot of friends, but to me, I've never been fully convinced behind the casting of Don Cheadle as War Machine.
Honestly, I hate to make a judgment call like this. It's just because he's too skinny. I don't really
Don Cheadle's very skinny.
Like,
yes,
beating the shit out of people unless he's doing it kind of like he did in Iron Man 3, where he's more being like, where it kind of gets down to like the cop thing.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
But one thing that I do want to bring up for Iron Man 2 was this was Black Widow's first appearance.
Ooh, yes.
And one thing that I want to say this for later, because I feel like we got to talk about it. In this, the Black Widow's character gets kind of sexualized more. Like the first time when, before you know she's Black Widow, when it's just Scarlett Johansson, like Tony Stark Googles her, and it's just a picture. It's just like a bunch of lingerie photos, and it's like, oh, and there's a point where she gets undressed in the car. And you never really see anything too like crazy. It's just like they're just kind of vaguely sexualizing her.
That felt like a studio call too.
That they stopped doing after this. They, like I said, they went in a slightly wrong direction. And I just wanted to. That's more of a point for later.
Well, that's true too. But and then it's kind of hard not to sexualize Scarlett Johansson. It's just there, you know.
Yeah.
it is just there. So I guess Jon Favreau felt the need to kind of poke fun with that, and again, kind of going with the more lighthearted, fun Iron Man. You know, in that kind of vein. So, and the big hook with Iron Man 2 was it at the end. You have the credits. Coulson goes into the field in New Mexico, and he goes, "We found it," and it's just a big hammer stuck in the ground, which leads us to Thor.
Yeah, which, to be honest, is probably the movie on this list that I remember the least about.
Thor gets a bad rap.
Yeah, it was mostly... I remember being kind of bored by all the stuff that was happening on Earth, and like all the stuff that went back to the whatever realm.
Yeah.
the Asgardian realm, it felt so disconnected.
Because this is really the first time that you kind of had to step out of reality too with this world.
Yeah, this was I mean, up until this point, it had just been two Iron Man movies, which is a man makes a machine, and Incredible Hulk, which is science gone wrong. It's all here. This was the first, like, okay, this is when we're doing magic shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, that's really, I don't have much to say about Thor.
What I liked about Thor, I did like the obviously, because with Thor, there's more of a Shakespearean language, and you kind of have to, get used to a different sort of dialogue. But I thought the casting was really well. I liked the pacing.
I say this with a big pulsating asterisk of Black Swan hanging over this statement. But I've never really liked Natalie Portman. She's always seemed, especially in movies where it seems like she doesn't try. She's just kind of like, I'm the pretty scientist. She doesn't bring anything like the whole romance between her and Thor. I couldn't give a crap. Whereas I really like the romance between like Pepper Potts and Iron Man. That's fine.
I think they underdid that. I felt like they underdid this the romance between, or at least developing the romance more between. What's her name? Kate in the Thor movies. I forgot her name.
Oh, I don't even fucking know. That's a sign right there. I mean,
Jane. Her name's Jane.
Ember. You know Pepper Potts. Oh, yeah, it is Jane.
Her name's Jane.
You know Pepper Potts' name right off the top of your head.
Yeah, of course. But, so I feel like the biggest problem with Thor is that they underdevelop, I guess, the connection between Jane and Thor. But there is going to be a third Thor movie, so maybe that might hit home more. So I'm looking forward to see what they do with that third Thor movie that comes out, I think, in 2 years. Tom Hiddleston as Loki. We'll get to him in a bit, but I think he's a really good actor, and I thought he really held his own as the antagonist for essentially Thor and the first Avengers film.
Oh no, he is great, and him as an actor, I'd see him more. He's coming out with the new Guillermo del Toro movie.
Oh, I think I read about that.
October, called Crimson Peak, and it's like a ghost story, but by Guillermo del Toro. So,
oh shit,
I'm on board.
Okay, cool. I gotta look that out. But that's the big thing. That's the big thing with Thor. I did like that they took I guess that they pretty much introduced the new world, essentially. So Thor, I liked. I think Chris Hemsworth was well casted, and I thought the first one was pretty fun. So, we're about to get to probably my least favorite one, and that's the first Captain America. I was very bored with the first Captain America film.
That's fair. I mean, one thing that I'll say is Chris Evans does a really good job.
Yeah.
I feel like before this, he was typecast as like the roguish bad boy, but he really pulls off the, like not stately, like noble.
Yeah.
Like we have to do for king and country. It just the way he plays the character works.
Yeah, Chris Evans is actually really good. He's really well cast as Captain America because you actually believe him. You believe him as like that old school New Yorker who's like still kind of mild mannered in temper, but like loves this country. So Captain America does have that really good old school kind of justice for all type of feel, especially being centered around World War II. I just didn't like how they used the Red Skull.
Oh yeah, and that was a waste of talent. I mean, you have Hugo Weaving.
Yeah.
And this one was, I felt, a lot similar to Iron Man, where here's this really good solid origin story around a really good solid character. Now we have to have a final boss battle for him, so here's a guy that is kind of sinister that's been hanging around for the rest of the movie. I
would have liked more development. To me, it was one of those things where it was just a waste of a good actor, and a potential top-notch villain. It was just like don't cast good actors and then have them do nothing. Now, another problem I had with Captain America was Agent Carter. I thought that actress was terrible. Terrible.
Yeah.
Haley Atwell, she sucks.
I don't really think anybody asked for the show. They're just starting to spill over a little bit.
Why are they even doing a show? Why are they doing a show?
There was actually you might not remember this, but there was this bit where she asked completely crazy. It's when Iron Man gets his shield, and he's just seen her kissing a woman, which actually is oh God, Natalie Dormer.
Okay. Ooh, yes, I love Natalie Dormer.
Like Natalie Dormer like throws herself on Captain America, and this girl sees it, and as soon as Captain America picks up his shield, the first thing that she does to test it out is fire 5 times. Just at him for kissing another girl,
For kissing a hotter woman, essentially.
And they have very little chemistry or anything at this point. They have very little chemistry at all.
You should have got with Natalie Dormer. You should have just got with her and dropped the Atwell girl.
I don't want to sound horrible, but like she's just a badly written character.
She's whack, man. She's whack. The movie was boring. Tommy Lee Jones was really good. But
Tommy Lee Jones has stopped trying.
Tommy Lee Jones has to eat, and Marvel pays for a lot of
he has
for a
to
lot
eat
of food.
That steak. Remember that completely unnecessary scene where Tommy Lee Jones eats a steak in front of the German sub-scientist bad guy?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like for no reason. It doesn't do anything for the plot. It's just Tommy Lee Jones eating a steak.
Maybe because he was hungry, but I remember that scene
He's like, all right, I'll do the scene. I'll do the movie just so long as I get to eat in one of the scenes.
And also what this thing is, this with Captain America, this is where we get introduced to the concept of Hydra, and I'll get back to Hydra in a little bit because Hydra is further explored, especially the impact of Hydra is further explored in Winter Soldier. So we'll get to that in a minute. So that's all the Phase 1's films, and then now that we've met Captain America, you've met Iron Man, you've met the Hulk, you met Thor, you have Black Widow, you're gonna get Hawkeye. Oh, Hawkeye who made an appearance in Thor, by the way, I forgot. So this leads us to the first Avengers movie.
Yeah, which on the whole, I feel like there's not much to say about this.
It's so good.
It's a really solid movie. It's funny. It's moving when it needs to be. The action is good.
And everything.
There's some kind of cliches in the story. Could have been a little more original, but it's fine. We didn't really want anything to blow our minds. We just wanted to get all of the Avengers on the screen at the first time.
And we wanted it to be done satisfyingly, and it to feel special, and it to feel like a big deal. And I thought Joss Whedon did an excellent job, especially because he had to write for so many different characters. The Avengers was so good. Like one of the best Marvel movies I've seen. One of the best big budget Hollywood movies I've seen too. Like the Avengers, it was just like such an achievement on all fronts. So I was happy with that. And that's all I got to say about the Avengers, which now bleeds us into presumably the last Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man in Iron Man 3.
Yeah, I've heard things that he's wanted to walk away for a while, and he's probably just still going to be around for the group stuff.
Yeah.
Not doing a thing himself, which, is all the sadder for it, but it's
but he might still be busy, too, though, in some of these future movies.
Yeah.
He might have plenty to do, especially when we get to Civil War.
And he's trying to, make his own stuff, too.
No,
which I also heard that Chris Evans is too. I think he's directed his first movie recently.
Okay, we'll have to look out. We'll look out further for that. But Iron Man 3, that what I appreciate, the best thing I appreciate with Iron Man 3 is that I thought the new take in direction was fresh and well needed, and I liked how they directly followed the events of the Avengers with him going through like this post-traumatic stress. So I thought I thought Iron Man 3 handled the impact of the events of the Avengers really well.
Yeah, I mean, a man lives through a terrifying thing and he remembers it. It's really good character building too, seeing him knocked down and like picking himself back up.
Now, the big controversy in Iron Man 3 was how they handled the Mandarin. But how did you like how how they handled the Mandarin with we can spoil it now because it's been a while, that the Mandarin is actually a front, like they use an actor as a front for a much bigger, for essentially the Aldrich Killian character to have a much bigger impact there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like the people who are most angry about it were the people who are like really loyal to the comic books, which is fine, whatever. I'm not. I like Iron Man, and I've read the comic books, and I like what they did. It worked for the movie. It was clever. They tried something different, and it pretty much worked. And the fact that they were willing to gamble like that on a big story point, I was behind it. I liked it. Ben Kingsley was hilarious when he dropped the accent when he's just being a random British guy.
I dug it, man. I got a kick out of that twist personally.
Yeah, and I gotta say, as Iron Man 3 as a whole, and I'm very, very biased on this, but Iron Man 3 might be my favorite of all of these movies.
Really? Okay. Because I'll get to what other people said are their favorites too. Thor 2, we can skim over this. This was pretty bland.
Well, I liked it better than Thor 1. I remember a little more of it. Again, one of the common problems with these is, like, the story being pushed by some MacGuffin thing that you don't totally understand, but you're really just there to watch the characters quip at each other and punch things.
Okay.
And that's fine. It's just I feel like these could be, like, really, really good movies if they really took a little more time on the storylines.
Yeah.
But they're simple so they can reach a wider audience, and that's fine. It's just, when you get, like, there were cool scenes in it, like with the whole gravity and wormhole stuff, but like, a magical blood thing that's really one of the Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
Inside the main character's love interest.
Aretha or something like that.
The ether.
The ether, yeah, something like that. Yeah, I thought that was kind of clever, and I kind of dug, and I like that Thor is sort of this bridge to the Infinity Stone concept, which becomes a much bigger play later on. And then the big thing the two big things at the end of Thor 2 was Thor getting rid of his king rights and talking to presumably, Anthony Hopkins, the king of Asgard, but then in reality it's really Loki. So I assume he killed the king.
He probably stuffed him in a drawer. There's a thing that Odin does in this universe for some reason, which is sometimes he'll just go into a coma.
Oh, okay.
For convenience reasons.
Okay.
So yeah, he might not be dead. The one thing though that I was like Thor so spoilers, it's been out for a little while.
Yeah.
When Loki dies, it's a decent scene, like Loki's apologizing, Thor's accepting. It feels, like earned.
Okay.
But the thing is, he's like, his whole thing is he's the trickster god. He's the liar.
Yeah, so I kind of like that sort of hook there. And then I liked that Thor's friends go to Taneleer Tivan, Benicio del Toro, and they try and hide this other Infinity Stone in, like, his collection because they think it's going to be safe.
Yeah.
So, and that's going to be a big thing, I think, in the next Avengers film. Okay, now we get to Winter Soldier, because people just ate this with a spoon. I loved Captain America Winter Soldier, and I think it does a lot of progression with the Marvel Pass, especially as it pertains to how it handles S.H.I.E.L.D. So I really dug Captain America Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I mean, it was solid. I enjoyed it. It wasn't my favorite, but it was really... This one had a good story. You understood what was happening. It was engaging. There was the fight scenes.
The direction was tight.
The direction was tight, and that's props to, was it Joel and Anthony Russo?
Yeah, and who are now taking over who are going to do the next Avengers film because Josh Whedon is bowed out. But yeah, it was exciting, man, and I like that it gave Shield more of a depth with more of a backstory, and the whole Hydra thing, how Hydra has secretly been growing inside of Shield for like all these decades. So I thought that was a really interesting twist to it, and I think and I like Anthony Mackie, the Falcon. I think he has I think Chris Evans has good chemistry with Anthony Mackie. I think the Falcon is an interesting character to it was a fresh character to add to this sort of thing. So Winter Soldier is like a top 3 film for me. Like, I thought it was great.
Yeah, it was definitely good. Anthony Mackie was good on screen. I agree with the chemistry, but his superpower is basically having a jetpack.
Yeah.
It's fine. When I was watching the movie, I remember being pulled out of it kind of by the way it looked and moved.
Okay.
I know that sounds like a nitpicky thing. It's not like I could point to any reason why it did, but there were a couple of times where I was like, "Oh, that didn't look right."
Okay, but I thought, and it shows that, at least in Marvel's mind, I'm getting a sense that it's Captain America is really almost seen as like the true good guy of everything.
Yeah.
And
he's the moral center of the group.
Which I think, and maybe because it's America, he's Captain America, and they feel that they have to make Captain America the most morally sound. But
well, it's also kind of his shtick. He is,
he's the first Avenger.
Propaganda for patriotism.
Yeah, and he is the first
Avenger. Fine.
Yeah, so and clearly it shows with the scripts because he's been getting the best scripts. We're gonna draw to a close here soon. I'm gonna gloss over Guardians of the Galaxy for now, only because they were not a part of the Avengers 2, but they're gonna be a part of the Avengers 3. So this all leads to Avengers 2.
Everybody knows it's a good movie. There's not much to say that it hasn't already been said. It's a lot of fun.
It's a weird Guardians is like a standalone film. It feels like, but you gotta think they will probably be involved with the Infinity Wars Avengers movie. So I think that's pretty standard. So Avengers 2 Age of Ultron, man, this was the most recent effort. I think the movie as a whole was entertaining. I thought it was a very good sequel for sequel rights, but to me it just didn't have the same special factor that the first film did.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. The thing about the first film was getting them all on screen at the first time. And knowing that it was being done well.
Yeah.
It worked. And the story of the first one, like it's convenience and plot devices and MacGuffins and whatever.
Yeah.
But it's tight when you're sitting in there, when you're watching it. It moves well. It paces well. It's well crafted. It doesn't make 100% of sense all the time.
The performances, I thought the performances and the chemistry was still there, but it felt very much like, here we go again. We're back. It's starting to feel. I think with the Avengers 2, I started to realize that it started to feel a little too run of the mill. It's like, okay, we're just going to churn out another Avengers film because you guys are going to see it anyway. So unfortunately, I don't think this film did as much as it could have to further the progression, but I did think it was a much more well thought out sequel than most franchises.
Yeah, I mean, and you could tell they've clearly got a lot of talent behind it. There's like 50,000 people worked on this movie.
Yes.
I definitely agree. You're starting to see the cracks. They spent a little time trying to get off the ground, but now that they've been here and we like them and we know what to expect, we're starting to get a little too much of what we expect. I mean, just going from front to back.
Yeah, go ahead.
The first two major plot points of the movie are it opens up with a fun action scene, which is great.
Yeah.
It's sometimes it's nice to just dive in and not have to set something up.
But yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Then there's the party where everybody
which I think is really fun. That's a fun scene.
Yeah, and everybody gets to interact with each other. People from different movies get to interact.
Because it would make sense that after a while, you're gonna start to just bump into these people now.
Yeah. And it works. It's fun.
And you need their help.
Like, the introduction of Ultron is fine. It's a little weird when they start going on about like, the construct of the memory, and we're going to make another one. And no, he killed Jar. It started to get a little weird. One thing that this is going to be a horrible nitpicky thing. I don't expect an answer to this, but
okay.
So Thanos wants the blue Infinity Cube Stone.
Mm-hmm.
And he gives Loki the scepter to get it, but inside is another Infinity Stone. So
yeah,
why would he give one up to get one? I mean, he'd get another one in the end if it went well. That just seems like a hell of a gamble. But whatever, that's just nitpicking.
Unfortunately, you would know the more of the solutions behind that than I would. Unfortunately, but I think. But you nitpicking that, it does show that the bigger these films are going, you're going to start to see more plot points or plot issues that could have easily been covered up. But it just shows that the thing is, it's not about the actual story of these Marvel movies, like the actual, like, the Infinity Stones and Hydra. Like that's not people. Yeah, like the comic book fans are going to get drawn into that. But it's really just like the movie is just like these franchises are just sort of selling you on the different characters, really. Or it's more of a. It does feel like more of a character showcase than a plot thing, because no one's going to retain all that plot information. They're just going to relate to as much of the characters as they can. And I feel like what the Marvel movies are going to have to do in the future is that they're going to have to really make us care more about the newer people they bring in and some of the more established people, and we're going to have to start seeing some changes, and we're going to have to start seeing more of an evolution with some of these characters. And I think with Civil War, I think we might get that as it pertains to Captain America and Iron Man.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. This movie is kind of hard to talk about 2 weeks afterwards.
The event, there's a lot going on, but you don't have to talk about the movie itself. It's just like, and I'm not sure how crazy I was about Black Widow falling in love with the Hulk.
That
felt very
was
Beauty and the
okay,
Beast-ish.
but actually, it brings me on to a point that I wanted to talk about. I don't know if you had heard about this.
Yeah.
But people were pissed at Joss Whedon because they thought that this film was anti-feminist or something.
I think whenever
Black
anti-feminism gets involved, I think that's like a overreaction, because it's still a movie. But
yeah, but what I want to
the strong female presence was gone.
Silly, because for one thing, you have Scarlet Witch, who's a pretty solid character, who's not like weepy, whiny, whatever.
Yeah.
And she's like perhaps theoretically the most powerful person, like, in the group. Like,
the
she
most
can
empowering
manipulate reality and mind control people. Everybody else just has variations on a theme of punching stuff.
Because the problem, maybe the reason why that didn't sit well with me, the whole Hulk and Black Widow thing, is that you spend so much time building her up as this empowering, kick-ass woman. You can look, she's beautiful, but she can also kill you. Like, all of her uniqueness and her allure was compromised when all of a sudden she started getting googly eyes for the Hulk. It's just like, I understand you care for him, but I feel like they could have done a much more impactful way of showing that.
I think part of the reason was that the David Hulk didn't seem that into it for like most of the movie. Like, he clearly liked her, but she's the one who's really pushing it forward.
And we don't get enough of the Hulk's reaction.
A little out of character for her.
Yeah, we don't get enough of the Hulk's reaction to that. So that's kind of the big thing. But with the Avengers, the thing with the Avengers 2, it's a very good sequel, but it is starting to feel more run of the mill. So, what do you see the future of these Marvel movies like? Do you think this all ends satisfyingly? Maybe with Avengers 3 Infinity Stone, or will they be like clear-cut conclusions, or will they just sort of make it more open-ended at the end of the day?
What I think is going to happen, and what I hope that they have in mind, is they've got to know that this train is not going to run forever. People are going to get tired of superheroes.
Yeah.
There's going to be in 15 years, I'll say, nobody's going to be making superhero movies. Because we're getting, like, pretty badly flooded now.
It's getting really crowded.
Yeah, and with, like, not even Marvel, with, like, a whole bunch of other things. So I'm hoping that Marvel is smart enough to know that it's got to end at some point, and to end it. Like, just this cinematic universe. They've still got the the comic books and the TV shows, and they could even do more movies, but they need to, like, this whole story needs to be put to bed. Like, especially as these characters. So we give them a chance to move on until they just start dropping out, and then they get replaced by people we don't really like in the role.
Okay. Well, Robbie, I'm going to end it there, and I think you gave a lot of good thoughts, and hopefully we'll see what these Marvel movies show. But yeah, dude, thank you so much for calling in from Syracuse.
Yeah, well, thank you for inviting me. This is fun. I can now just roll over and go to sleep.
All right, good. Robbie, thanks for staying up and getting this figured out. And thank you all for listening online, on YouTube, on Facebook. NTW Podcast is back and running. We're going to have some more stuff for you throughout the summertime. Robbie and I will probably review Mad Max in a couple weeks. A lot of good stuff. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you guys again for listening to the MTW Podcast, Marvel Movie Edition. Good night, guys. Take care, Robbie.